Thank you.
Right, we're nearly all there. So,
That's a matter of opinion.
oh dear. Well, I did say nearly.
I resemble that remark. Anyway, continue. You weren't going to mention Liverpool, were you? Good.
No. No.
No, they're in time.
Come on.
What's the one job in football you wouldn't want at the moment? Being centre half for Liverpool. We've got six centre halves injured. 6.
I'm sorry,
anyway.
but we've been there, done that for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Seriously.
21 centre-back combinations inside half a season.
That's not news to us, and I'm not being funny.
No.
But when you're paying that sort of money, comes off the bottom line.
Yeah.
I'm just going to finish with 3 stats, that's all. Now, Liverpool, in losing at home to Everton for the first time in 22 years, have now lost 4 consecutive league home games on the bounce for the first time since 1924.
Put him on mute. Get
And
him
Ian
on.
was there. He's aged well, hasn't he?
I bet they can't make it 4.
Shut up, you. Get on to the next topic.
The Owls, they've fallen behind in 15 games this season, and they've only equalised in 1 of them. And yet they still lost that game. So that's a stat for Wednesday. Liam Shaw.
Well, thank you for that. That's fascinating.
Liam Shaw
You talk about something else,
sent off for the 2nd time this season.
like people being booked when they shouldn't have been booked. Yeah,
Yeah, unfortunately.
which resulted in him being sent off. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's now signed for Celtic anyway, which was going to join at the end of the season.
Noel, stop digging, mate.
Apparently he hasn't.
Hasn't he?
Apparently I got the information he has not signed a pre-contract agreement.
Oh,
Neil
Where did you get
Lennon
that from, Ron?
has withdrawn the statement
Oh,
that
fancy
he's
that.
signed. He may still sign it, but he hasn't yet.
oh.
Fancy that.
So, false news, fake news.
No, the parallels between United's
He may well
penalty that they
sign
should have had and they didn't get, and Wednesday's booking that we did get that we shouldn't have had, are very similar.
I think I got that, John.
Yeah, well, there was no contact in the tackle that got a yellow card, and in United, that's Wednesday. And in United's case, he nearly broke the United player's leg and didn't get anything.
Free kick he got.
No, he got a free kick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
free
got
kick.
a free kick.
Free kick to Fulham.
Yeah.
Seemed fair and reasonable at the time to me.
Should we ask Brian's opinion on the goalkeeper's attempt at playing the ball?
My opinion,
Yep.
I was staggered. I mean, Martin Atkinson is not my favourite referee following our little debate at one of the summer conferences. But I can't blame Martin Atkinson for not seeing that because of the way it was positioned. But the VAR man Banks, how he came up, A came up with the decision, and B failed to suggest that the referee himself go and have a look is absolutely beyond me. And the view from behind the goal, that was the view that sort of said it all, and it was as clear as night follows day what had happened, and I'm just staggered that
Unless you're in Finland.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, even in Finland, it would have been clear.
Eventually, yeah.
And I'm just staggered that the decision they arrived at was that decision. I'm just flabbergasted because in a way, that was the classic of this is what VAR is here for.
Exactly.
You know,
Gentlemen,
You wonder if they're sitting there reading the paper or something, don't you? Some of the
Yeah.
decisions or
Yeah.
non-decisions they've
Well,
come
it
up with.
was an
Yeah.
unimportant match,
Yeah,
a non-entity game.
and like John said, so some of the penalties that you see now, which are given on the slightest of physical contact,
Yeah.
you know, which is absolutely ruining the game in my view.
Yeah.
And then you get the complete other end of the spectrum, like we saw with United.
Yeah. And it's also players acting. The player acted. He pretended he'd been kicked in the Wednesday situation.
Yeah.
The player pretended he'd been kicked, and the film showed that he'd not been touched. He rolled about and writhed, and the referee thought, well, I mean, he must have been hurt. He wasn't even touched.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a bit, and I mean, it was the Everton penalty against Liverpool. In my opinion, that was never a penalty in a million years.
Yeah.
I think Ian's impersonating an Indian chief. How?
I just wanted to come in with a profound statement. I think we just recorded an absolute sporting memory gem. Brian called on to make his professional comments, which was, as ever, brilliant. But preamble was, I don't get on with this chap. I didn't at the professional conference, you know. Talk about name drop. Wow. Nice one.
Whenever
conference, and he's a brat now.
whenever Martin Atkinson's name's mentioned, my thoughts immediately go to that Sunday afternoon conference that I was at. I don't know if I've ever told you about it, but it was a National Referees Conference, Referees Association. About 350 people there. So we split into groups to do like technical sessions. So there's a group of about 100 of us there. And Martin Atkinson and what's his name? Referee who's just been abused. Mike Dean. Mike Dean, yeah. They were doing a session, the two of them, on, it was entitled Offences Within the Penalty Area. Right. So a series of videos, Martin Atkinson were leading it. And it showed you, usual stuff, ball being kicked into area from a free kick or whatever. And two players coming together. Is it a foul? Isn't it a foul? So there was some debate, and then Martin Atkinson came out with this one. He says, I'm surprised that nobody's asked the obvious question yet. They were like, well, what's the obvious question? And the obvious question was, he said, well, nobody's said which team's attacking and which team's defending. So I said, what do you mean which team's attacking and which team's defending? You're judging the offence. And he's saying, no, you need to know which team's attacking and which team's defending for you to give your decision. So I said, so what you're telling me then is that for exactly the same offence, if it's an attacker, you might give the offence, but if it's a defender and it would be a penalty, you might not. And I forget what Martin Atkinson said, but he said something to try and make me look that big in front of the audience. But he picked on the wrong guy, and eventually Mike Dean had to intervene and stop our little conversation for the session to continue. But
you didn't get your heads together, did you? Your forehead?
No. And again, it's interesting again with Martin Atkinson that he stated publicly at this very same session that he would never ever send anyone off in the first 5 minutes.
What's it all about?
And we know that goes against your Graham, Brian, doesn't it? Because you'll send me off.
Well, yeah, but you judge the offence, don't you? What
it's the offence, not the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why that's why Ian, Martin Atkinson is not necessarily my favourite Premiership referee.
Yeah. And like the 1991 Cup final, Forest and Tottenham, Paul Gascoigne wasn't sent off because he was injured and carried off, but he'd committed a sending off offence, which would have reduced Spurs down to 10 men. But the referee didn't send him off because he suffered enough.
Yeah.
May I ask Brian a question? Brian, after the debacle at Craven Cottage, Graham Souness was very outspoken, and he's calling for ex-players to be fast-tracked into being referees to try and improve the current very poor standard. What's your opinion on that?
Well, they tried that when I was on the league. Was the guy from Chesterfield, Steve Baines, not a very top footballer, but ex-pro footballer. I mean, frankly, I didn't rate him. The whole ethos of things changed, and I don't think they should be doing that. What I think they should be doing is fast tracking anyone who shows the talent to get there. And just because you're an ex-pro doesn't mean to say that you'll make a good referee, and vice versa. I think the process should be, and it is becoming more so. If you've got the talent, there's a faster way through than is generally the norm. But just being an ex-pro, I don't think necessarily helps you, because it's like saying if you're a goalkeeper, then you can play centre forward, and you can't. It's two different things, and refereeing and playing are two different things. And I think the problem is that VAR is so precise, and everybody wants the decision to be so clinical that the laws, if you like, are being backed into a corner. And I've noticed now there's one or two calls from professionals or pundits or the like saying, why don't we just go back to where we were and just accept the referee's decision? And that's much better, because it gives you loads more to talk about. Because like I've told you before, I always used to give value for money, because whenever I refereed, they were talking about it for weeks afterwards.
Philip.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Brian.
Philip, you've got a question.
Yeah, I just wonder what you thought about the disparity with putting referees off joining the game. I noticed there's a retainer for referees to start with, and is it so much a game? I noticed that the retainer is the same for the Premiership as it is for the Championship, if it's right. But the actual money that they get per game is nearly half.
Well,
putting people off.
These guys on the Premier League referees, will be pulling in excess of 100k a year, right? And most of the guys on the Premier League will also be getting matches through FIFA, because most of the Premier League guys are on the FIFA list. So for what they do, so not that I'm all bitter and twisted, but compared to what I was getting when I was at the top, it's on a different level. Although at the time, relatively speaking, when I was on the Football League, what I was getting was at a different level to the other referees. But obviously there's more money in the game, and that's spilled onto the refereeing circuit. But you have to alleviate the fact that some referees do referee more games than others, so they need to be obviously get more more money than the ones that referee less. So by putting a retainer and then so much per game, it actually succeeds in doing that. But these guys on on the Championship are also professional referees at a slightly lower level. The Championship guys are full-time referees because there's like an elite list there.
Yeah.
So it's just it's just a way around a tricky problem, really.
Yep. Yes, Fred.
I don't know why it's got Fred P up. I mean, I am Frederick Peter, but I use Peter. It's my email address. That's the trouble. I'm just thinking 100,000 a year for a referee. Umpires, probably less than half that. But there's a lot of the vast majority of umpires are ex-players.
Well, yeah, you used to have to have played at the standard, at least minor county standard, to go onto the umpire list.
Yeah.
At one time, I don't know if it's still the same now.
It's a contract much sought after. It's well in excess of 60,000 a year, plus all the expenses. It's a very, very sought after position to be an umpire in first class.
First class.
First class.
Yeah.
I think, Peter, I think you raise a good point there. But there are some sports where the minutiae of detail, like in cricket, when you're assessing LBWs, you do need somebody who's been there, understand the game, what have you. But if you get something like rugby union, you don't need somebody like Nigel Owens to have played in the front row to understand what's going on. The six of you are a bunch of Wezzocks. Get on with it, and he sorts them. And I think that's the difference in the game. I wouldn't say skill levels, but it's different types of skills and different types of events that occur in the game.
Situation management.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks, John.
Right.
You are useful.
Have you finished, Lol?
Just one more stat.
Oh,
the
yeah.
United Eyes. Now the Blades, unfortunately, become the first team ever in top flight history to lose 20 out of the first 25 league games in a season. At least we're going down in the history books.
Well, it'll nearly be a crisis. We'll nearly do something. There'll nearly be something done about it soon.
Lol, you're fast becoming Sky Sports News, the Prince of Darkness.
Crisis.
I will hand over to Chris.
Right,
I've tried.
Chris, not easy. Silverwood, right. Picture of Chris Silverwood recently, coach of England with Geoffrey Archer, just so everyone knows who he is, just in case. What happened was Keith asked me a question a few weeks ago when England started the tour in India, and he said, I've heard of Chris Silverwood, but he's not, who is he really? Because he's not famous, is he, in terms of, cricket? And I said, it's a very good question, Keith. And then Keith said, well, why don't you do a few minutes on Chris Silverwood's background? So that's what that's what I try and do. He was appointed the English coach in October 2019, and since then, since his appointment, England have won 9 out of the 16 games, including the last defeat. He's won 9 out of 16, and he is only the second Englishman in the last 20 years to be in charge of the English team. Now, he's often called Silvers, or his nickname is Spoons, or I've heard him called Chubby. All of those apply. He's not a household name, probably outside of Yorkshire. He didn't have an exceptional international career. So I think that's what Keith was getting at. Often the coach is a particularly more famous than the players. Anyway, bit of background. Chris Silverwood was born in Pontefract in 1975, and he made his debut for Yorkshire in 1993. And he was one of these lads who went through from YTS. He went through from YTS. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry. He went from YTS all the way through to get into the first team. He did everything. And he was part of a battery of fast bowlers that Yorkshire had for about the next 13 years. People like Goff, Hoggard, Kirby, Sidebottom. He was part of that. And he was capped in 1996 after taking 47 wickets in the season. And in the following year, he took 58 wickets at only 20, including his best figures against Kent, 7 for 93. And in 1999, he was the leading Yorkshire bowler with 59 wickets in the championship. He was a member of the Yorkshire winning team, championship winning team in 2001, which is the first time Yorkshire had won the title for 33 years. And he also won the C&G Cup at Lords in 2002, and he was a very proud member of that. So that gives you a bit of background to how the party played for Yorkshire as a bowler. He was given a benefit year in 2004 for his services, and having got to know him reasonably well, I helped run a benefit day for him at Retford Cricket Club, and he featured heavily in the day, which was partially for him and charity. And he actually played. I made sure he played in my team. If I'm organising it, I'm having the best player, and he's on there with a man you might recognise, Richard Kettleberry, who became and is still a world-class umpire. Talking about umpires, wow, that guy is an ex-player and an amazingly good umpire. In his benefit brochure, he is described as positive and determined, great sense of humour, down to earth.
Hang on. I think that might be you, Dave. Just paper.
Which Dave we talking?
Okay. So in his benefit brochures, a lot of people saying a lot of very, very positive things about the man and how he went about the game. Well, he finished at Yorkshire in 2005. He started to get a lot of niggly injuries. He did take over 400 wickets for Yorkshire in 130 odd games. He went to Middlesex, and he played a few years at Middlesex. In his first season in 2006, he took 63 wickets. But unfortunately, the injuries just kept blighting his availability, and he retired in 2009. When he retired, he had just under 600 first-class wickets in 184 games. So I don't know how many wickets he'd have got if he'd stayed on the pitch, but that's life. So internationally, he started his career for England as an England bowler in '96, and on his debut, he took 4 for 71 against New Zealand. But his Test match appearances, his ODI appearances, were limited, and he took 17 wickets in total for England. But on his day, particularly against South Africa in Cape Town, he was rapid. He was clocked at over 92 miles an hour, and he could make any batsman hurry up. He was a very, very good bowler. So what happened to him in 2010, he became the bowling coach at Essex and the head coach in 2016. And amazingly, in the first 2 years that he was the coach of Essex, they got promotion to the first division in the first year, and the following year they won the county championship, and they won it for the first time in 25 years with Chris Silverwood as the coach. So not so unsurprisingly, he was recruited by England as a bowling coach, and then by 2019 he was very successfully interviewed as an outstanding candidate for the job, and he got the job. He replaced Trevor Bayliss as head English coach. Up to when we beat India in the first test, England went to the #1 Test match ranked team in the world. That's the first time for over 9 years, and I know that Joe Root and Chris Silverwood are very, very proud of that achievement, and it's up to them now to try and kick on and retain that place in a difficult set of circumstances. Nasser Hussain wrote recently that Root has flourished as captain under the old-fashioned approach of Silverwood, that Silverwood is organised and isn't flashy, and he's appointed some very good backroom men, people like Thorpe, Collingwood, Jeetan Patel, and then recently Chris Reed as the wicket-keeping coach. Chris is a black belt in karate, so I wouldn't sort of get too near. And he's also been a racehorse owner and trainer and breeder. And just to finish off, a very good book, The 100 Greatest Yorkshire Players. Chris Silverwood appears in there as a very proud member of that 100. So I hope that just gives you a little bit of background to Chris Silverwood, a man steeped in cricket, a short international career for himself, but a very proud career in total.
Right, thanks, Chris.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Very
Chris.
good.
Can I just add, I was
Yes.
listening to Darren Goff the day after Chris Silverwood was appointed, and Darren Goff reckons that Chris Silverwood's the best coach he's ever come across.
Right.
That was the day after he was appointed the England coach.
Good. That's
high praise, yeah.
Yeah. Right, so we'll try and get on to another topic that we've tried for a couple it's not music. Don't know who that is.
Name that tune.
That was me.
Oh, sorry. So let's start with someone. Your first sporting event or a special event you went to, after be football, can be something else. So can I start by asking somebody first? And I'm gonna drop Big Paul on it. What was your first sporting event, Paul? And that girlfriend round back at Sheds at Penistone, don't care.
I remember her name though. Well, topical really, because my uncle, my mother's younger brother, is just passed away. He was 94. He's had a good innings, but he lived at Worlow for many years, and I can remember him taking me and my cousin, my cousin lived in the same village as me, Thelston, just outside Penistone. And when I was about 9, I think we'd be about 9 or 10, and my cousin was like 9 months older than me, and he took us, my Uncle Stuart, took us to Bramall Lane.
Child abuse.
Yeah, but there is, John, there is good news to come.
Yes.
But took us, and bear in mind, coming from up in Wales, going to Bramall Lane, I was just in awe, complete awe of the size and scale of it all. I'd never seen anything like it. I know I was really keen because Hodgkinson would that be right, wouldn't it?
Oh. Yeah. Great goalkeeper. Great goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in awe with the scale and the size of everything. I'd never been anywhere to see anything on scale or size.
Yeah.
I do remember they played Birmingham, and unfortunately, I think Birmingham won 2-0. But that was my very first memory of anything big like that. And the good news, John, is it was my Uncle Stuart's funeral last Thursday.
Yeah.
His oldest daughter, 13 for you Blades gentlemen, she's a Blade through and through and through and through. And, you know, coming from Whirl like, you know, things like that, you think, very nice lady. I've never seen that side of her, but when things at football matches, she can swear like a trooper, apparently.
You do a lot of that, Bramall Lane, don't you?
The good news, John, is that at the funeral it was announced that, which really surprised me, he was a Sheffield Wednesday man through and through.
A good bloke. Good bloke. He suffered.
Yeah.
My, how he'd suffered.
Yeah. And I didn't know that until the funeral.
Peace at last.
Yeah.
Right,
Thank you, Big Paul.
Has anyone got a story that's not related to football or cricket?
I've got one for Peter, Keith. Peter
Yeah,
will
go on then.
resonate with this. You know this, Peter. My first, and a lot of Liverpool people will resonate with this. My first sports encounter was when my dad took me down a pier head to learn me how to swim. It was dead easy once you got out the sack. Yeah, am I right? Am I right? Sorry, Keith.
No, that's good. I mean, I remember when I was learning to swim, my brother's idea of teaching me to swim was to chuck me in.
Yeah. Did he cover you in lard first? Yeah.
He should have done.
Yeah. Remember my dad taking me to see Star Walk for the first time. When I was a little kid, be about 5 years old, and for at least 2 decades, I thought that type of walking was called the Star Walk. Oh, Dad, they're doing Star Walk. Yeah. It was a massive event, wasn't it? The Star Walk.
Yes.
Absolutely massive in the 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah, I did it twice.
Has anybody ever taken part in it?
Yeah, I did it twice.
Oh.
Yeah. I did it once.
Yeah.
But
I went to Fetchstart a few times.
Yeah, I was banned from going in it again.
Why? Too fast?
No.
Cheat.
You got too many heels. What?
No, I actually won a Star Walk. Not long afterwards.
Yeah.
So
it's sometimes like being in Fantasy Island, this, isn't it?
Once you win an event in Star Walking or in road walking, you're not allowed to enter the Star Walk again.
Yeah. Big achievement, that, Keith.
Aye. But so anybody else? What about Dave the Fish? You must have got a story about going fishing.
Oh, plenty. Not all of them repeatable on here, but no, I've told this story once or twice, haven't I? That before I became part of this group, I was at the library when the group was talking fishing.
Barmy army.
Yes, I've told the story where I was actually just picking some books at the library before I became a member of the group, and you were talking about fishing, and at that particular point, Keith, you were just speaking about Jeff Gudgeon, which is a good name for a fisherman.
It is. It's the first fish I ever caught, that, a Gudgeon.
That's his real name, Jeff Gudgeon. They were telling him about how he'd fallen in, incurred the wrath of his wife because he'd lost his glasses. And at that point, I just couldn't resist it. It was nothing to do with me. I was being rude, I suppose, but I just appeared from behind the bookcase and said, "That's true, I was there. I pulled that man out of the water." I always think it's funny that. And he never got his glasses back. And that spot where he fell in, I do see Jeff from time to time, and he always calls that the spectacle peg.
because he lost his spectacles, and B, he made a spectacle of himself. So that's one of the funny ones. I mean, there's plenty of funny ones where you see people fall in. I mean, it's great to see somebody fall in.
I fell in locally when walking the dog, and the bank slopes away, and I
Rufus B. Thomas
put my foot down, and it sort of kept going, and I grabbed for the railing that was there on the bridge, missed that, and wound up head first, and the water's about that deep, about 6 inches deep, and there's a bloody great rock underneath. I banged my head, lost my glasses, lost a walking stick.
Another one lost his glasses.
Yeah, lost my walking stick. Oh dear God.
I once caught a mallard at Clown when I was fishing the pond there. My mate had got a new, what he called a special casting reel, and he said, "Here, have a go at this." And it went about, I don't know, 60 feet to the middle of the pond, where there were a load of lily pads with mallards feeding, and a mallard took the bait. And everybody else put the rods down and tried to watch me play this mallard in 40 feet in the air. Magnificent catch. Yeah.
Well, strangely enough, I caught a swan a couple of days ago.
You've got to go one better. You've got to go one better.
Peter, I caught Peter Swan the other day.
Yeah, come on. Anybody else got a story for a couple of minutes?
Oh dear.
Thank you.
Very, very quick one. I was, as I say, I used to work for Benson Hedges. I was going to the Benson Hedges final and got as far as the M1, nearly the end, and suddenly realised I hadn't got the tickets. And the bloke who was driving me, my cricket captain, nearly hit the central reservation and the near side reservation. I said, "I haven't got the tickets." Well, what are we going to do? So we stopped as soon as we got off at the first phone box, and I rang my wife, got the ticket numbers, and we carried on and went to Lord's. Now, Sunil Gavaskar was refused entry to Lord's because he hadn't got a ticket. We went and said to the bloke in the ticket office, "We haven't got the tickets, brothers." And he said, "Oh, see the gate man." And I said to the gate man, "We haven't got the tickets. I've left them at home. I can tell you the number. Can you find so-and-so for me from the agency run?" And he said, "Well, you better come in and see if you can find her." So when we went, and we wound up going through the whole day saying to people, "We're in seats number such and such." Okay, righto. And got through the whole day without tickets. Nobody's ever done that before at Lord's.
Right,
David Gower was refused entry.
Yeah, quite right.
We're less than a minute to go, chaps. Thanks for a good week, and we'll see you all next week.
Hopefully.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Keith.
All the best.
Bye.
Bye.